Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. You have tuned into the Rebel News live stream on this Tuesday, October the 13th, 2020. And I am joined, as always, by someone who makes me thankful every day of the year, Sheila the She-Devil Gunn Reid. How was your Thanksgiving there, Sheila?
It was good. It was smaller than normal because of the COVID, but not necessarily because of actual COVID. Yeah, it was good. It was good. I mean, it's just weird. This whole year has been weird, and so why wouldn't Thanksgiving be weird? How was yours?
It was very unusual because Lady Menzoid went shopping for a turkey, and the only ones still available, and I have a theory as to why this is, were mutant, huge, ginormous turkeys that you could feed 20 with. And we just wanted a small turkey that could feed 4. And here's my theory, Sheila. And I'm wondering if any of other viewers experience this on Thanksgiving weekend. I think all the small turkeys sold out like that, and all the big turkeys were left unsold because we're being told, right, keep it in your social bubble, keep it to 10 or less, preferably just by the people that live in your house. And I think so many people abided by those rules. We weren't trying to abide by those rules. It's just that nobody ever responds to our invitations to come for a Thanksgiving turkey dinner. So we never ended up with turkey. We had spaghetti.
Really?
Which is so sad, right?
Why didn't she just cook a large chicken and just not even tell you guys?
It's not the same. It's not the same. So, yeah, but there you have it. So I'm just wondering if that was the reason. And maybe it's worth a call to the turkey farmers of Canada and ask them, did you guys have trouble selling the big birds? Because that's all that was on the shelves that we found. So no turkey dinner for us, I'm afraid.
Oh, that's weird. I get my turkeys from the local Hutterite farm,
yes.
just up the road. But I have to speak for my turkey earlier in the year just to make sure that they have it because there's such a high demand for their high quality produce. Yeah, when I say smaller than normal, I mean 25 people as opposed to like 35 people because my husband comes from a very large family and they have a lot of kids, and then now the kids are getting older and they have boyfriends and girlfriends that come with them. But like for Thanksgiving, my family jokes about it, but I turn into about 4 days before any major holiday, somebody's 75-year-old Ukrainian grandma. I'm baking bread from scratch. I'm rolling up cabbage rolls. I'm telling people, eat, you look too thin. It's very strange. It's just like a switch gets flipped and I just turn into an old babushka. I'm young babushka.
Yeah, but you know what, Sheila? You are really making me feel like a true jabroni right now, which just got into the dictionary. And I'll tell you why. When you mentioned the Hutterite farms, what a fool. I could have flown out to Alberta. I think if you trespass on their property, you're allowed 5
They'll
free
give you
birds.
a turkey.
Right?
The cops show up and give you a turkey.
So I could have had the pick of the litter. I could have maybe even picked your turkey, plus 4 others, and walked out just by claiming I'm an animal rights demonstrator, and the police would look the other way. What a jabroni.
What a jabroni. Yeah, jabroni made it into the dictionary.
Yes.
And you and I were talking off air that if The Rock's key phrase, jabroni, if they can put femsplaining, manspreading into the dictionary, then certainly jabroni deserves to be in there too. And I ended up on a bit of after you sent me that article, jabroni's now in the dictionary, all thanks to The Rock. My feelings are a little hurt by Rock because he came out and endorsed Biden, and I just wish he would have been quiet.
Oh, I know.
Just don't endorse anybody. Just, Republicans like him, Democrats like him. He has been apolitical. That's part of his charm. I don't know why he had to do that, but I'm happy that jabroni's in the dictionary. Anyways, I was going to say, when you sent me that article last night, I ended up on a bit of a jabroni tunnel. Like a rabbit hole. And I realize now that the WWE has a cookbook out. It came out last year. And you can in that is the recipe for jabroni macaroni salad. And today is Prime Day, and I'm going to order it. Jabroni macaroni salad, Nacho Man, Randy Savage nachos, Degeneration eggs. You can get the Big Boss Man ham steak donut and Big Show's world largest pancakes. So it came out in March, and today is Amazon Prime Day. I'm going to order it as soon as we get off there.
I think that's an inspired choice. Those are some great names. Talk about alliteration. And I got to tell you, I share your disdain for The Rock endorsing Biden. I don't know what he's thinking. But I will give credit where credit is due. When I read the article about it going into the dictionary officially, The Rock said, he might have popularized it, but the first wrestler to actually use it, going back to the early 80s, was the Iron Sheik. And
yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
So, of course, I'd love to play an Iron Sheik Howard Stern clip, but it is completely unplayable due to the profanity that the Iron Sheik dovetails to now that his wrestling career is over. But, it works for me. And I just, before we get to our first story, I remember we had great fun with this when I used to do local radio here when I was on 640, Sheila. We had at the time an NDP local politician, Adam Jabroni. And I don't know if I was doing this intentionally or subconsciously in the debate, I kept referring to him as Adam Jabroni.
Perfect.
And I guess his career's kind of over, so maybe he was a bit of a jabroni. He was a nice guy, but of course on the wrong ledger of politics, much like The Rock. Yeah. So there's the perfect synergy in our jabroni story, right?
Yeah, you just made that go full circle. That was great. We should tell everybody what we're doing here today because we're 7 minutes in. We've talked about a new word in the dictionary, the cookbook I'm going to order right after this, how you can steal turkeys from the Hutterites, and we haven't even told anybody what we're doing. And the super chats are already rolling in. So the people know what to do, even if we don't tell them exactly what we're doing here. This is the daily live stream here on Rebel News. We used to just do this on Friday, and it used to be just a stream of consciousness Ezra Levant live show. But during the pandemic, we think there's more news than ever. And while the mainstream media and the state broadcaster are cutting down on their daily news coverage, we actually ramped ours up. I think our people enjoy it. The live chat is always very lively. We've got a bit of a community growing in the daily live chat. Regular people turning up every single day, making friends with each other. And it also gives our viewers a chance to do something that the mainstream media won't let you do. It actually lets them do two things, maybe even three, actually. It lets them interact with us directly, which is like something unheard of in the mainstream media. Their talent likes to be, separate from the masses. I think we're normal people. We're one of our viewers, really. We're not all that different. And the issues we talk about every day, many of them are our own issues. I know for me as a farmer and, as a mom, a lot of the things that I talk about are things that affect me directly. Gives our viewers a chance to leave comments, which you cannot do on many mainstream media outlets. They don't want to hear from you. They just want to tell you what to think and shut her down. And it also gives you a chance to support the work that we do here completely out of your own free will, which is something you can't do with the mainstream media. Either they get a direct subsidy like the CBC, whether you watch them or not. Justin Trudeau is going to give them over $1.2 billion every single year. Or mainstream media, they get over $600 million from Justin Trudeau to produce things that you don't want to consume, that are politically opposed to you. You have to fund it, even if you never, ever pick up the National Post. So you can do something called a super chat if you'd like to support us of your own free will. It's at the bottom of the live chat. There's a little $sign. Just click that. Throw some money in there. YouTube takes some. I get it. It's their platform. But we get the majority of it. It'll highlight your comment to the top of the screen. And then Mr. Producer, Justin, who's back after a week off. Welcome back, Justin. He'll send it to me in a WhatsApp chat. We didn't talk about this before we went on air. Perfect. And and then David and I will read it on air. And it's your chance to sort of direct the direction of the show at home. You can send us a comment, a question, something you want to put on our radar. Do that through Super Chat. And it supports Rebel News while giving you your say.
And you know, Sheila, two things to what you just said there. I find it perversely ironic that the CBC will take $1.5 billion of our money, taxpayers' money, every year, but they disable the comments for most of their stories online. So they'll take our money, but they don't want to hear our opinions. And you know what? It's their loss, because I can tell you, Sheila, I like to, as much as possible, and just sometimes the volume, prohibits it, but read the comments and all the stories. And there was a huge chunk of our viewership that are so witty, they're so sardonic, they are so sarcastic.
Clever.
I find myself laughing out loud, and it's such a pleasure. And I'm thinking, why is the CBC adverse to this? Because there might be another big chunk of people responding, telling them what a horrible job they're doing, and they're, sensitive. We don't want to have our reporters' feelings hurt. It's just a sham, I think, Sheila.
They don't want that bubble shattered.
Yeah.
They literally think, and I hate to use the word literally, but I truly believe that they think the way that they look at issues and examine issues and analyze issues, they think that's the way that all Canadians feel. And I say it all the time. There are two Canadas. There's the one that CBC speaks to, and then there's everybody else. And they don't want to find out that there's like a whole second Canada that doesn't think the same way as CBC.
And and it's not a big number, Sheila, because I remember back in the Sun News days, going back 8 years ago, I covered a Save the CBC protest that was in front of a Conservative member of Parliament's office. And I think 5 very elderly people showed up.
Oh, yeah.
It was so sad.
Yeah, I think that a lot of CBC viewership, we know that it's like fewer than 330,000 people in a country of approaching 38 million were tuning into the 6 p.m. broadcast. So their flagship news shows before they canceled them during the pandemic. And so nobody noticed. Like, if you didn't notice at home, well, that nobody, of course, you weren't watching. But I think a large share of CBC's 6 p.m. viewership and the people who continue to watch it are people who don't know how to use their remote control. Like, it's just the old people who find satellite and cable and figuring out how to make your remote talk to your TV. They find that overwhelming. And so they just go back and forth between like 3 channels.
Or could it be, Sheila, wait a second, you might be overthinking this. Could it be they don't have a remote control, and why bother getting out of the sofa and walking over to the TV and change? I don't know. But speaking of the CBC and speaking of the mainstream media that refuses to cover the real pressing issues of the day, we know what the situation is like in Canada. Well, I can tell you, down under, it's pretty much the same. And thank goodness we have our newest rebel, Avi Yamini, doing the Australian version of Fight the Fines. Because you know what, Sheila? The mainstream media there isn't much interested, and certainly, just like in Canada, the civil liberties associations, they're not too keen on this either. So Avi has been inundated with cases. I think this might be the 3rd or the 4th one that we've posted. And wow, will you see this one? I think Mr. Producer, newly refreshed and recharged from his vacation, has a clip. Check it out.
Yesterday, I had the absolute pleasure to meet a gorgeous Australian family who needs our help to crowdfund their fight against a whopping $10,000 coronavirus fine at fightthefines.com.au. Joshua and Elise live in Kurrajong, which is on the edge of the invisible regional border. Now, 3 weeks ago, the young family jumped into their car to drive down to their closest health food store to top up their vitamins. Now, on the way back, Joshua grabbed some takeaway food for their children to eat in the car on the way home when a COVID cop suddenly pulled him over.
We were over more than halfway home. Police have stopped us, asked us what we were doing, explained our story. and then they'll tell us that we're going to receive a fine.
He said the fines were going to be $1,000 each, and when they came in the mail, they were $5,000.
How'd you feel when you saw that number?
My heart dropped because I'm like,
The heart's
this
the
is
same.
unbelievable. It's
Like in the middle of
unbelievable.
everything that we've got going on, like that's what you want to do to families, you know what I mean?
So the fine that they gave you is actually what they claim is for breaching the regional border.
Correct.
For going over the regional border. Now, to put this into perspective, I drove out here. I feel like we're pretty regional out here.
Yes, we're right on the cusp, right on the border basically.
So how can you see the border? Is there a line?
There's nothing, there's no signs, there's no nothing. So the road that we head down, it's at the end of my street. So literally I drive down my street and I turn left, and that's the very road that I got pulled over on, the road that leads to my street.
If there was a big red line here that said cross over for $10,000, would you probably reconsider?
Yeah, probably would, yeah, big time. But yeah, like I said, there's no signage, there's no nothing, there's no roadblocks here. And most of the people that you'll see travelling along this road are going to be travelling more than bloody 5Ks. Where are all these people going?
That's right. There's nothing within 5K.
Ks here. Yeah, exactly. So there's people openly travelling on this road.
And that's why we're fighting together at fightthefines.com.au. Come support. Let's fight this fine. And if you have your own fine, your own outrageous fine to submit, fightthefines.com.au, because as Daniel Andrews keeps saying, we're in this
Together.
Can you afford the $10,000? Do you deserve? You're laughing, no? Is it?
I'm laughing because it's a hard time. Like, who can afford $10,000?
I just took one of the kids into the store, came back out, then grabbed some food, ate in the car.
And you guys aren't working, or you're working
Oh,
now?
just me, yeah, just me.
Were you working before COVID?
Yes, I was.
So you're working, and now you're not working.
No, I'm not. I'm home.
If you were to pay that $10,000, how would you pay it?
I would have no
10
way.
cents a week.
Yeah.
When people
Wow. All I can say, Sheila, in reference to one of your stories is holy Walter Matheson. They pull into a fast food restaurant for takeout, and the next thing you know, and it's to a far greater degree of Walter Matheson, he was only fined a few $100s. 10,000 Australian dollars for that infraction. What did they call it? Bridging or violating the regional border? I mean, thank goodness they didn't venture into the Romulan neutral zone. I guess that's $1 million fine. This is insane, Sheila. And I love that, mockery of the saying of 2020 that is the biggest piece of fake news this year so far. We're all in this together, except when we're not in this together, except when we're a politician who doesn't want to abide by these rules. I think this is despicable. What a lovely young family. They're just trying to make things, make ends meet. They're going out to get vitamins. They want to stay healthy, which you'd think is a good thing. And now look what they have. I can't wait for this one to go to court, Sheila.
What was the danger to the public safety of those people in their car feeding their kids takeout food? And again, it goes back to that, like I just mentioned it. There are two Canadas. Obviously, there are two Australias. And when they have these like 5-kilometer radius that you can go to, what happens to people who live rurally, who need a jug of milk, who need fuel? I'm way more than 5 kilometers from the closest gas station. What happens to me? I can't even get gas? Well, I guess because I'm not allowed to leave my house, where can I go? I mean, this is absolutely outrageous and such a nice, normal family. Look at all those kids.
I know.
What kind of heartless public serpent wants the cops to pull over that family and ding them with a ridiculous fine? Thousands of dollars. Think what that means to a family where only the dad is working, where they've got a bunch of kids. That's everything. And for what? Because they went a couple kilometers further than they should have in their car with the windows closed in the middle of a pandemic that's over? Give me a break.
Yeah, so in theory, much like Walter Matheson in the empty Tim Hortons parking lot with that constable, Sheila, the biggest danger in terms of, I guess, cross-contamination or getting infected, however you want to call it, was the interaction of this family with the police that came clearly within 2 meters of the social distancing rule and gave them that ticket. And Sheila, speaking of the police, what I'd really like to know is that are they doing this begrudgingly, that their political masters have told them to do this? Is there a feeling that this isn't what I signed up for? And if that's the case, then why not just look the other way when you see a young family just trying to make ends meet, do a little shopping to stay alive, as opposed to hitting them with a 10 grand ticket? I'll tell you, that would be devastating for me. $10,000 just for going on a drive? Crazy.
That's the thing. I'm pro-cop. I'm pro-police.
Me too.
I've got police in my family. I love them. They're doing hard work in dangerous areas, especially as the social fabric begins to unravel, because Justin Trudeau is giving anyone CERB, or whatever they're calling it now. Like, I was talking to someone in my family at Thanksgiving who works in an RCMP detachment in one of the more rural areas of Alberta. And the Justin Trudeau giving people CERB has really caused a problem in those areas. Like, they're chronic homeless, chronic drunk, mentally ill. Justin Trudeau is just giving them the money to kill themselves with. And that really wasn't the tangent I wanted to go off on. But there's a lot of discretion allowed in policing, And so if you've got something better to do, real crimes to deal with, you can continue on and ignore the jaywalker and arrest the rapist. Those decisions are happening every single day, and good cops are making them for the betterment of their community. Tell me, what was the danger in the immediate danger that you needed to stop that family and give them a $10,000 fine? Where's the policing discretion there? It's crazy. Those are the kind of people you don't want to be cops, because they're not doing anything to make the community safer. They're just, control freaks, the same control freaks that end up on city council. Unless,
Sheila, and before we get to the super chats, you're right, police do have discretion, but when it comes to ticket issuing, we know this. There are quotas. Well, they're not called quotas, folks. If you talk to the police, they're called targets. Targets is another word for quotas. And so if in a month you're supposed to hand out, 35 of these things, you're bound to hand out 35 of these things. I think quotas makes for bad policing. I look at this, Sheila, as the police being enlisted as the tax collectors for the state, because no crime was committed there. Absolutely zero criminal activity, and no health crime was committed there either. So anyways, I think we have some super chats rolling in.
We do. And imagine going to the police academy to ticket that family. Like that, you sign up to wear a badge, put a gun on your service belt every single day to make your community safer. And your bosses have you ticketing these nice families who are doing absolutely nothing wrong. It's got to be demoralizing for the police force. It has to be. Okay, Martin Sable gives us $20. OPP has done the same as RCMP, not allowing the thin blue line. This came up over dinner yesterday in my family. They're not allowing the thin blue line. It's like a little patch on their uniforms. They've got to take that off. My friend with OPP had to take it off his uniform after 5 years in the summer. JT managed to put Canada on highest unemployment in the G7. Halloween costume idea is Patrick Brown as an ice engineer, an ice inspector. He's just here inspecting the ice.
What would that look like? A giant rat with his mouth full of cheese?
He's a rink rat. That did actually, staying on the topic of policing, that did come up over Thanksgiving dinner, how they've been forced to remove the thin blue line patch from their uniforms. And it's just a little tiny patch. You wouldn't know it if you didn't see it. And basically it just, it's a sign of police solidarity amongst themselves. They, leave their families and go do a dangerous job, and hopefully they come back safely every night, and they take a lot of abuse, and politicians expect them to do stupid things they don't want to do. And they've been forced to remove that. And yet, if you look at some municipal police departments, they have like rainbow flags and all kinds of stuff. Whatever social justice thing is going on that day, they can have those things, but they can't wear something that shows solidarity for their brothers and sisters in uniform. I mean, it just shows you the priorities of the upper echelons of policing. And I would suggest that a lot of those officers had that thin blue line patch on their uniforms as a show of solidarity to each other in opposition to upper management.
Well,
that's what I think.
You know, Sheila, I'm not surprised, albeit I am disappointed to hear that. And I'm going by memory, I'm going back several years ago when David Miller was the mayor of Toronto. And I remember a big battle was emergency service personnel, police, ambulance, fire trucks, putting the yellow ribbon on their vehicles. I mean, in solidarity with the vets, thousands of whom are overseas, like in Afghanistan, other hot spots. You'd think that everybody would be simpatico on that. It'd be like almost a mother's milk kind of issue. But no, for the left, oh, well, we got to look at the root causes and blah, 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 blah. I think they went on to win that because I have seen police cruisers with those yellow ribbons on. But, I mean, the idea that that would be somehow offensive, showing solidarity to our veterans, just incredible to me.
Well, and I think the RCMP used the excuse, oh, well, the uniform is the uniform and they're not supposed to alter it in any way. Okay, that's fine. Then let's never alter it in any way. But we know that they do allow them to alter their police uniforms depending on whatever's going on. So that's not a good excuse. That it doesn't hold water, I don't think. Let's keep going through these super chats, though, because Justin's first day back. We're half an hour into the show and we've read one super chat. That's it. Proud Boys Calgary gives us $6.99. Hope all enjoyed Thanksgiving. Now on Parlor at Proud Boys Calgary. Join the real Canadian Proud Boys. Thank you. That's other Justin, Proud Boys Calgary. Kane Edmark gives us $5. I find it funny that the people on the right are hotter than the left. Example, Chris and Jenny. For David's eyes with the quote unquote fat cow 2 months ago. That's Kane's words, not mine. Chris and Jenny are a real feast for the senses, I think is the right word. I've only ever seen them on camera. I've never met them personally. But they're an interesting couple to look at. They're just a lot to take in all at once.
Yeah, and Jenny has no idea yet what she's going to wear to court. So we with bated breath, we wait upon that decision.
I'm excited for that. I'm a fashion watcher, and I'm very excited. Pink Phoenix Nails gives us $1.49. Thank you very much. Libby T. Pink Phoenix Nails, by the way, if I recall correctly, you're in Red Deer. I might have a job for you, but you have to be self-contained. We'll talk off camera. Libby T gives us $5. Did Liberals respond to the World Health Organization saying lockdowns are bad, cure worse than the virus? Yeah, the World Health Organization just flip-flopped again. Who knows? Who knows what's going on at that organization? They flip-flopped now and said that lockdowns are not helpful.
And I'm happy they flip-flopped on that, Sheila. But to your point, isn't it uncanny how in 2020 medical science changes in a matter of weeks or even days?
Based on public opinion.
Yeah, incredible.
Zed Wells gives us $6.99. Thank you for bringing us the truth. Thank you very much for your support. Joyful Heart gives us $1. No super chat. Ray Mechanics gives us $10. So I'm having a problem understanding why cops are acting like this. It reminds me of a certain group of people who were just following orders back in World War II. Moreover to my conversation with my couple of members of my family who are in law enforcement, they allude to the fact that some of the standards to become an officer these days are quite low, as opposed to the physical standards and the performance standards to get into depot before, quite higher. And so I think that has a lot to do with the quality of policing we're seeing on the ground these days. And again, the people who are climbing up the ladder of policing, they've been in there 20 years, they're looking at upper management and saying, I don't want to be that guy because I don't want to play politics. I'll take my retirement at 25 years and go do something else. And so the people who are fast tracking up the ladder are those low entry standards people. So I think we're going to have a real crisis in policing coming in the next 10 or so years.
Wow.
Jim Rat gives us $2. Romulan neutral zone joke was the best yet. Well, there's no accounting for taste. Shelby ZD gives us $10. Imagine if there was a dangerous virus spreading. Lockdowns, masks, and social distancing would do nothing to stop it. Lockdowns of healthy people don't work, but closing the borders to people with a potential infection probably would have worked early on, I would suggest. Martin Sable gives us $5. I doubt Australia would pull over criminals crossing some lines while drug and human trafficking. My friend in the Edmonton PD has never issued a Wuhan fine. Yeah, we've been pretty lucky in Alberta. We have a provincial government who doesn't believe in lockdown. Like Jason Kenney flat out came out and said, we don't believe in mandatory lockdowns. We don't think they work. He tweeted something to that effect over the weekend, which is why the municipal control freaks are creating this patchwork of mask laws. By the way, in Fort Saskatchewan, it's like there's no virus. Nobody cares. People are coming and going. Nobody's wearing a mask. They're just doing their own thing. But when you go to the socialist snake pit of Edmonton, it's a completely different feel. And friends, this is why conservatives don't pay enough attention to it. This is why municipal politics matter. We all get caught up in federal politics and we worry about provincial politics and who's our guy. But local politics is what affects you first, affects you most. You notice if the alignment is out on your vehicle because the county or city won't fix the pothole in front of your house, and if your garbage doesn't get picked up, and you pay that big enormous property tax bill before you pay anything else. We have to get involved in local politics.
100%.
We have to.
And Sheila, I think Ontarians thought they were getting Jason Kenney here and with Doug Ford. After all, remember his slogans in 2018, for the people, and Ontario open for business. And what did he do last Friday? Well, as of Saturday, Toronto, Ottawa, and Peel region back to stage 2. That means no indoor dining. That means the gyms are closed. That's the one that really bugs me, Sheila. As they phrase it, indoor gyms, because, outdoor gyms is such a big thing in Canada, especially
parks?
with winter coming, right?
You mean parks, public parks?
I guess so, right? Yeah, just don't have your hands freeze to the barbell while you're doing your repetition. But we even see government, sponsoring ads, the participation campaign, Get Fit. I mean, and there's a good reason for it. They don't want an obese population that would further strain the healthcare system. So she'll explain the logic to me when, especially when you have so many people out of work and that maybe are doing more gym time to their credit to stay fit. How does closing those gyms result in that agenda? I mean, that's why I think so many of these measures haven't been thought through. It's so arbitrary. And the idea that, it's for the city of Toronto, but you literally cross the street at Steeles Avenue, and hey, the Wuhan virus, it obeys the geography of the jurisdictions. It wouldn't dare affect anyone going to a gym in York region, for example. Sheila, it's preposterous.
Yeah, I mean, there's literally a county line where I live where if I'm standing on one side of it, masks aren't a thing. They're just culturally not a thing. Nobody's doing it. And on the other side, the county that's run by a failed Liberal candidate, he's the mayor. He just made masks mandatory because the county just ticked over 25 cases. And as Andrew Chapados pointed out in one of his videos, cases doesn't even mean positive tests, let alone someone who's actually sick. They can be someone who's just been near exposed. For example, if I tested positive, there are between my 5 people in my immediate family and my in-laws who live with us at least half the year, they would be counting 7 people in the case count because they would be presumed cases because of their exposure to me under the same roof. Yeah. So it's really crazy when you drill down on the numbers, how our lives are being controlled and businesses are being destroyed based on the flimsiest of data.
Yeah, and many of those businesses are not coming back. There are so many restaurants, gyms in those regions I just mentioned, Sheila, that were already hanging on by their fingernails. Yeah. This is the death blow. And it's coming from a premier who just days before said he wasn't going to do it, flip-flopped. And like I said, he's supposedly for the people, and Ontario is supposedly open for business. Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of Ontarians thought that they were voting for Canadian Trump, and they just got a round version of Kathleen Wynne, didn't they? Kane and Mark gives us $2. David and Sheila are the best reporters. Oh, thank you very much, Kane. However, I do know, Kane, that you are a big fan of Kean Bexty. Martin Sable gives us $5. I'm not a cop myself, but a few of my friends and I are keep thin blue line stickers on all of our vehicles to show appreciation and support. I think they need the appreciation and support more than ever. They are being inundated by criticism from politicians who want to defund them, but then call upon them when their houses are being protested. The entire left is against them, and their bosses seem to not care and to be siding with everybody else. Again, going back to my Thanksgiving dinner discussions with my cop family members, the idea that they are going to be turned into Justin Trudeau's confiscation bailiffs of the firearms of their friends, the people they go to the gun range with. You know, like, could you imagine being a cop and you go to the gun range and now your friends that you shoot with at the range, they're looking at you with their eyebrow raised because they think you are the guy now who are going to come confiscate their guns because Justin Trudeau has made this arbitrary gun ban. I mean, I would not want to be a cop these days. I wouldn't want to be a cop anyway, but I think it's a very tough time in policing.
Yeah, well, you mentioned defunding. Don't forget those politicians and those activist groups, Sheila, that want all-out abolishment of the police. They want to abolish the police. Yeah. And they've never quite connected those dots. If someone's being harassed criminally, violently assaulted, you name it, who do you call? The social workers? You know, I mean, it's astonishing that people in a position of power would latch on to such a ludicrous idea, but we see it, and you see the results of it, like in Portland, right, Sheila, where statues are falling like dominoes right now. And and Nancy Pelosi basically shrugs her shoulders, and people are going to do what people are going to do.
Well, yeah, like if you want the purge, this is how you get the purge. Yeah. And it's always the people who are least likely to take care of themselves in the event of societal chaos and disruption. They're the ones calling for the defunding of the police. They're the people least likely to be able to survive without a police force protecting them. They really are.
Good point.
It's the same people who call for no more fossil fuels. They are the people who would die the first. They really are. William, that's a heck of a last name. William Tykerobe. I was at the Lines protest in Toronto the Saturday before last, and my only regret is that I didn't see you, David, maybe this Saturday. Oh, that's sweet.
Oh, how did you miss me? I was giving out hundreds of these badges, so I'm sorry I didn't see you, sir, but it looks like I'm going to, other events on Saturday as Yahoo Nation rightfully protests. And that's another thing, Sheila, I should mention. I was there last Saturday when the new restrictions came through, and it's kind of uncanny that, I take my hat off to the Toronto Police Service, everybody there was liable for an $880 fine. The organizer was liable for a up to $100,000 fine because It's clearly more than 25 people. There were a few thousand. And not a single person got fined. And by the way, Premier Ford, to his discredit, actually said that this proviso includes protests. And I'd love to see how that would go in a court of law, Sheila, under the Constitution in terms of freedom of expression and freedom of assembly. And far from fining people, they escorted people right down Yonge Street to, vent, their anger at the government. So can't imagine Premier Ford's happy about that.
Premier Ford, what a disappointment. You expected Justin Trudeau to find new and exciting ways to disappoint you and fail. Like that, you knew that. But, for Premier Ford to have surpassed Justin Trudeau as the biggest disappointment in all of Canadian politics, that's quite an accomplishment.
It's sad.
Pink Phoenix Nails gives us $2. Send my page a message. I'm always down to work. Okay, perfect. I have a very important mission, should you so choose it, Pink Phoenix Nails.
Wow.
Zed, you know what? I'll tell everybody what's going on. And I think people would like to know. My friend Haley Weil, she was one of the co-organizers of United We Roll. About a month ago, she had a catastrophic car accident.
Ooh.
She was left paralyzed. She's been in the hospital in Calgary for a month, just working on her recovery and trying to do physio and trying to get into a state where she can get closer to home in Red Deer. And Haley somehow magically, her body's broken, but she didn't break a nail. Her nails, but I would like to find somebody, please, somebody DM me, whatever. Because of the COVID restrictions, you can't go into her hospital room to do her nails. And I think Haley would really like to feel normal again. So if someone is the self-contained nail person who wouldn't mind working outside of a hospital in a parking lot, I think it would really mean a lot to Haley if you could do that. And I'll pay whatever, it's just a matter of finding the right person to do that. So also everybody, please send your prayers for Haley,
great.
because
I hope Haley gets better, Sheila.
She's done a lot for this country. She fought for our families. All the way to Ottawa with her friend Glenn Carrot, and now she's got to fight for herself. So that's. I hope maybe Pink Phoenix Nails, maybe somebody who's a little closer to Calgary who can help with that. But it's a very special mission.
Has there been any worse year than 2020? It's all bad news. I'd hate to be
terrible.
A network or a radio station or a newspaper where you're just dedicated to bringing good news to people. There's so little of it. It's just, I can't wait for this year to end, although I doubt 2021 is going to be a utopia, Sheila, too. It's just so sad every day that what we're seeing out there.
Yeah. I think the bright spot will be hopefully when Trump wins.
Yes.
That'll be
the bright spot. That will.
Zed Wells gives us $6.99. If you're ever in British Columbia and need security, let me know. I own a company that would love to help. Oh, thank you very much. LCAP22 gives us £5. I've noticed Antifa mocked David for asking Rebel viewers for donations, but didn't Antifa ask for money so that they could stay at a hotel? Yes.
Oh,
yeah.
Yes, that's right. And not just the Motel 6, but the Sheraton Hotel across from City Hall, where I believe, I'm going by memory, rooms started, I think, Sheila, at $273 per night. Because this is going back to the Afro-Indigenous occupation by the Afro-Indigenous Rising folks, most of whom look white to me, Sheila, I got to tell you. And we exposed, when we did that great caper at the end of June, first of all, that most of those tents were empty. Secondly, it looks like the organizers, they weren't going to stay in a filthy tent city. They're calling up room service across the street at the Sheraton. And third, in what was perhaps maybe our best, perhaps our most important video of this company's history, where the big boss man Ezra, we went down there, all hands on deck, several cameramen, 7 bodyguards, I believe, to assert our right to practice journalism. Because in John Tory Sanctuary City, folks, you can claim to be an activist and break 11 sections of the Trespass Act, and we'll turn the other way, but we'll set the law enforcement hounds on you if you dare practice journalism, because we don't want the thugs triggered, you know. Just unbelievable. And if you haven't seen that video, please do check it out.
Yeah, that's not one of those 3-star hotels that you and I stay in when we're traveling for work, that's for sure. Let's keep going. Sonoran Arizonan gives us $2. I'm happy to answer this question coming up because it comes up quite a bit. China PLA troops in BC by treaty Trudeau signed. I'm happy to debunk this internet conspiracy that's going around. There's a video out there of what looks to be Chinese troops on Salt Spring Island. It's weirder than that. However, Justin Trudeau's sycophancy towards China and his affection for his favorite dictatorship makes this a very believable conspiracy. However, it's not quite the truth. They're actually members of a Asian cult, largely women. They dress in fatigues. They own a hotel resort there. The cult itself does. And so that's why it's a staging ground for this cult, not affiliated with the Chinese CCP or anything like that. In fact, the Chinese government tends to crack down on any religious minorities, cults or otherwise. And so they're staged there. And actually, they were implicated in a murder, or they were involved in a murder not all that long ago. You can get all the details. I think it's on thebreaker.ca or .com. That's a BC-based independent news website, but they did a very in-depth investigation because someone did send them the video and they really drilled down on it. And I get it. It's a very believable internet conspiracy, but it's even weirder than Justin Trudeau signing a deal with the Chinese government to allow their troops to mobilize here. It's actually weirder. Anyway, I'm actually happy that question came up because I was going to just address that organically one day in one of these live streams because I get it all the time. I probably get 5 emails about it a day. So I'm happy that Sonoran Arizona gave me the opportunity to answer that. Kane Enmark gives us $2. Shout out to Kian and Justin, the producer. Yes, very glad to have Justin back.
What was that?
It's the guitar.
Oh, evidently, when Mr. Producer gets a shout out, what appears to be an electric guitar flies by. There you go. Please, folks, don't do any more shout outs to Justin.
I don't know. I kind of like it. Okay. Derek H gives us $6.99. What are your thoughts on the internment camps that are apparently going to be set up all over Canada? David, you had a story about this the other day.
Yeah, Randy Hillier, an honest man, a straightforward, straight-talking man, an MPP, who is no longer with the Ontario. He was kicked out of the caucus of Doug Ford's PCs because, what was that I was saying? He was straight-talking, straightforward, honest. Well, there you go. His fate was sealed. He raised a question last week in the Ontario legislature, folks, and it was about an RFP by the federal government to the provinces and to the territories in regard to building internment camps. And this is ostensibly for people who have the Wuhan virus. First, it's a disturbing video because it's not as though Randy Hillier has come up with some kind of crackpot conspiracy theory, because quite frankly, we wouldn't have run it if he was saying, what if there are internment camps coming? He was basing this on data and documents that he had. But it was a disturbing response, Sheila, because to his first question about this RFP, if you listen closely, people are laughing. The other MPPs in the House are chuckling. It's like, oh, there goes that crazy old Randy again. And then he follows up with a second question, which is basically rephrasing the first question, and it's simply not answered. It's just, it goes to the next person raising a question. So I am, it's a mystery to me, Sheila, but it is this we know from Randy raising it. He's got the RFP, and we know it's a thing, or it could be a thing. And I think we deserve answers, because if the federal government has proposed this with the provinces and the territories, the provinces and the territories know about this. So where is the transparency? And the hallmark of any democracy, I think, Sheila, is transparency. And the way Randy Hillier was treated in the House last week, that was disgraceful.
We should file some access to information documents requests within the Ontario government to see what any of their internal communications about that. Because clearly they laughed at Randy.
Yep.
But obviously there has to be communications if the federal government is planning this for Ontario soil.
Yep.
Martin Sable gives us $5. David, worst year 2015 October when Joker got elected accidentally to destroy this once beautiful country. I wouldn't say it was accidentally. However, that did set a lot of wheels in motion, and what a different place this would be today in the middle of this pandemic if Stephen Harper had been reelected. We saw how he steered the country through the financial crisis, and we came out better than everybody else. Imagine if we had that kind of leadership now.
Yeah, just imagine.
Sad. William Tykerobe says, I nailed the last name. Okay, perfect. That's great. And I think we're all caught up on the super chats, and we have 9 minutes left in the show.
Oh my goodness. Well, you know what? I was going on about the lack of transparency in the Ontario government vis-a-vis the internment camp. I can't even believe I'm saying that.
I know.
Internment camps, right? Here's another agency of the Ontario government that is supposedly committed to transparency and social responsibility, et cetera, except they made us really fight tooth and nail to find out how much the Ontario taxpayer was getting ripped off. And I think Mr. Producer might have a clip of our most recent visit to the liquor corruption bureaucracy of Ontario. Roll it.
David Menzies for Rebel News here in Toronto. And before I get to our story today, folks, if you can, please go to rebelinvestigates.com. Sometimes when we hold those in government, those in bureaucracies accountable for their decisions, they are not willing to give that information to us. So we have to file freedom of information requests, and that can cost hundreds of dollars. And lo and behold, I am here to report on that very thing. For more than a year now, astute viewers of Rebel News will know that we've been trying to find out just how much theft in terms of stolen liquor is going out the door of LCBO stores. That's the Liquor Control Bureau of Ontario. And you would think that the LCBO would be open and transparent with that information. It is a crown corporation. It is, in effect, owned by the taxpayer. Oh, what are you doing, sir? Pardon me?
Call the police, please.
Oh, okay. Go ahead and call the police then.
Okay.
So as you can see, we were just, there was an attempt to shut us down. That is the other thing that's very amusing, is that they're more concerned about adverse publicity than they are in terms of theft being happening. Sir, yeah. Actually, it's owned by the taxpayer of Ontario, ma'am. Why, sir, as a security guard, why aren't you concerned about thieves stealing booze? Okay, go ahead. Now, where was I? We filed that. We asked the LCBO how much they were losing in terms of theft. They would not answer, so we filed a freedom of information request, and incredibly, it was denied on 5 reasons. Now, folks, you're not going to believe this. The first reason was advice to government. What does that mean? That the LCBO advises government? I mean, the LCBO is the tail. The government is the dog. The tail does not wag the dog. It should be taking its orders from the Ministry of Finance, not vice versa. Number 2, okay, thank you, is... Oh, yeah, we're exempt, thank you. Medical exemption. Okay, all right, thank you. Thank you, Karen. Number 2 is law enforcement. Now, what does this mean exactly? It sounds ominous. I guess we're going to find out because the security informed me they've called the cops. So maybe.
And then the manager came and
so
he called the
good.
cops. And a couple of things. I'll cut to the chase, Sheila. What we pried from the LCBO's hands was the dollar amount figure, $5.2 million. However, I have to admit, I kind of fell down on that assignment when I review it because I didn't clarify if the $5.2 million is wholesale or retail value of the purloin booze. But get a load of this. OPSU, the union that represents the LCBO employees, and I don't know what they're basing this on, their theft number figure, Sheila, get a load of this, 77 million. So we have a spread of almost 72 million. So what is it, 5.2 million, or is it 77 million? And, you know, the LCBO, which has an entire media relations staff, they won't even come on camera. They don't even give their names anymore, Sheila, if you can believe it. I've reached out to the finance minister, Rod Phillips. His media person doesn't return calls or emails. This is absolutely shameful because, like I said on camera, this is owned by the taxpayer. And, you know, when Doug Ford said open for business, I didn't know he meant monkey business because it should be noted, Sheila, that these aren't just tramps and hobos coming in and stealing some cheap plonk off the bottom shelf. These are organized gangs, sometimes weaponized, come in.
And nationwide.
Yeah.
Nationwide.
Fill bags, right? So imagine that, Sheila. What a business plan. We are going to get into the liquor business. What are your costs? Oh, our costs are zero because we go to an LCBO store, fill up bags of high-end scotch and whatnot, and then sell them out of the back of a trunk, presumably, or through some network. And basically, LCBO employees are told, don't get involved, call the police or call security, and hopefully these thieves will wait for a half hour. So I should tell you, the cameraman on that assignment is our new sharpshooter, Lincoln. We ragged the puck. We didn't run out of there. We hung around for a good 25 minutes. And I think, Sheila, I have nothing to substantiate this. I think when they put in those calls to the police, and could you imagine the 911 operator? Okay, and what is the nature of this offense, sir? Oh, they're practicing journalism in a taxpayer-owned facility. I could just see the cops looking at that and going, oh, Rebel News, eh? Yeah, we'll just take our sweet time responding to that. We have some super chats, I do believe, Sheila.
We do have two left, but I do want to say I learned a lot about the organized crime involved in booze theft.
Oh, yeah.
In Ontario, while I was sort of helping the guys put together your story after the fact. I think it was in Burnaby, somewhere in the lower mainland of BC, they did a big drug bust, the cops did, and found stolen booze linking back to a theft ring in Markham, Ontario. So this stuff goes all the way across the country. We should get to these super chats, though. Jim Rat gives us $2, gender-based analysis for an internment camp. No, we just do those for man camps to build a pipeline, but internment camps, it's whatever. Kane Enmark gives us $2. David is funny. He called the guy a Karen. Actually, I think he called the lady a Karen, but I think there was a lot of Karens involved during the whole thing. I think that's the very last super chat. And I do want to mention it because it is in the title of the YouTube video today that we're on. It's in the title of the live stream, Ontario's new Blue Party.
Oh, yes.
Yes. The Carahalioses are working on trying to get 1,000 signatures from Ontario residents to obtain status from Elections Ontario to form their new party. So that's a prerequisite to start a new party. And as an Albertan, I kind of appreciate Ontarians who now are looking at their own Conservative Party and saying, you guys aren't conservative enough. We need a better alternative. You got to be careful because if you do it wrong, the Liberals are going to get back in. But sometimes that 4 years of pain, what's the difference between a Liberal and Doug Ford right now anyway? I mean, this stuff happened in Ontario, or sorry, it happened in Alberta with the Wild Rose. And then basically the Wild Rose just took over the old PC party and made it their own under a new name. Reform started here, so this stuff is kind of, it's in Alberta's DNA. This burning an entire conservative movement to the ground to start it anew and do something better. I'm kind of excited to see how it plays out in Ontario. Are they going to be able to form a party? I mean, they would have a seat, which makes them different than the PPC, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It makes them very much different that way, Sheila. And I have a lot of time for Jim and Belinda. I think they've been screwed over a couple of times by the party establishment. Just, it might be an insignificant question, but then again, it could be important. What do you make of that name, the New Blue Party?
I'm not against it. Okay. I'm not against it. I mean, I think, what's your flower there?
A trillium, but there's already opposing.
Exactly. Exactly. So for us, the Wild Rose Party, I mean, it was great. I mean, and it wasn't already taken. So I mean, what are you gonna do? I mean, it's kind of fun to say the New Blue Party. It is new. Hopefully, it's going to be very conservative. So I don't know. I think it's hitting all the right high points. And producer Justin whispered in my ear that the Carahelioses, one or both maybe, I'm not sure, will be on Ezra's show tonight. And if you're not a subscriber to our premium content, now's your chance. Just go to rebelnews.com/subscribe to become a member of Rebel News Plus. You'll get access to my show, which I think is great, David's, which is super fun, and Ezra's nightly Ezra Levant show. It's all there.
For only $8 a month, and you get, if you subscribe for a year, 2 months free, right, Sheila? So Rebel News Plus. And have they issued a logo yet for New Blue Party? That's what I'm thinking too. How do you make that into a logo?
I don't know.
No, I don't think so. Okay. Well, Ezra's going to have all the details, including the important questions.
The questions we don't have a clue about. MEC gives us $2, says, love the Van Halen riffy thing. Yeah, that's kind of cool. There you go.
There you go.
That's fun. And we're 2 minutes past the hour and we're all done. And that was a very, very fast hour and 2 minutes.
Yeah, once again, I have a whole page of topics, folks, and we got to 2 of them. But I'm not complaining. Well, I want to welcome back Mr. Producer Justin to the fold. Did a great job as always, and of course my colleague Sheila Gunn-Reid. And well, folks, I hope you had a great Thanksgiving dinner, and I hope you didn't have to buy a turkey 10 times too large because of social distancing requirements. In the meantime, you'll see Ezra Levant in this place at this time tomorrow, and you'll see Sheila and I back here on Thursday. In the meantime, stay sane.